when 8-year-old Tyler Chin grabbed the leather jacket of a stranger at a rural Tennessee rest stop and screamed, "They took my brother. He's in that van." Pointing at a commercial vehicle merging onto the interstate, most people would have dismissed it as a child's confusion. But the raw terror in his voice and the way his entire body trembled made Jack Reaper Morrison, road marshal of the Steel Brotherhood MC, take a second look at the vehicle disappearing down Highway 40. What he witnessed in those fleeting moments would trigger the most extraordinary civilian pursuit Tennessee had ever seen. This is the account of how one vigilant child and a brotherhood of riders transformed a routine rest break into a desperate race that would dismantle a criminal operation and demonstrate that heroes often arrive in the most unexpected forms. The September sun blazed down on the pilot truck stop just outside Nashville, the kind of scorching heat that made the pavement ripple and turned metal into fire. Jack Reaper Morrison stood beside his street glide, refueling while his brothers from the Steel Brotherhood MC stretched after 3 hours on the road. 6 bikes had rolled in that Sunday morning: Reaper, Viper, Ghost, Tank, and 2 newer members named Diesel and Cruz. They were making their biannual journey from Memphis to the Smoky Mountains for a fallen soldier memorial ride. Reaper was 52, a former Marine Corps sergeant with silver streaking his auburn beard and scars that told stories of battles, both foreign and domestic. The Steel Brotherhood had ridden together for 15 years, recognized across Tennessee as the crew that appeared during floods, that funded veteran rehabilitation centers, that wore their patches with dignity that earned respect from both rival clubs and cautious law enforcement. Reaper was replacing his gas cap when he felt it, small fingers clawing at his jacket with unexpected force, fingernails digging through leather and fabric. He turned sharply to find a boy, roughly 8 years old, Asian American with jet black hair and eyes swollen red from crying. The child was hyperventilating, his Spider-Man shirt drenched in sweat that couldn't be solely from the temperature, his canvas shoes scuffed as if he'd been sprinting. "They took my brother," the boy screamed, his voice fracturing with desperation as he pointed toward the exit, where a white cargo van with commercial plates was accelerating onto I-40 eastbound. "Please, you have to stop them. They grabbed Ethan and nobody will listen to me." Reaper's military instincts engaged before conscious thought. He scanned the van, Tennessee registration, plain white exterior, nothing overtly suspicious about the vehicle itself, but something about how it had been positioned at the far corner of the parking area, isolated from other vehicles, and the hurried manner of its departure raised alarm bells. "Viper." Reaper's voice carried the authority that had once commanded Marines in combat zones. "That white transit van pulling out. Get the license plate. Something's off." Viper was already moving, phone raised, capturing images of the van before it vanished from sight. The boy still gripped Reaper's jacket, tears streaming freely now, words spilling out in a torrent. "We were by the vending machines, me and Ethan, and this woman came up. She seemed nice, but then this man appeared and they grabbed him. They used something, a cloth or spray, and Ethan just collapsed. They carried him to that van. I saw through the window. There are other kids inside. They looked terrified. I tried telling people, but they said I was making stories up, that my brother probably just went to the bathroom. But I'm telling the truth. You have to believe me." Reaper dropped to one knee, bringing himself level with Tyler's tear-stained face, his hand steady on the boy's shoulders. "What's your name, son?" "Tyler. Tyler Chun. My brother is Ethan Chun. He's 6. He's wearing a red Lightning McQueen shirt. He has his stuffed dinosaur with him. Please, you have to believe me. Nobody else will." Behind Reaper, his brothers had formed a protective wall, their presence commanding attention from other travelers who were beginning to notice the scene unfolding. Tank, the club's enforcer and a mountain of a man at 6 feet 6 inches and 290 pounds, was already on his phone. "Calling Tennessee Highway Patrol," he reported quietly, providing the plate numbers and description. Reaper studied Tyler's expression and recognized something he'd seen countless times in war zones, the absolute certainty of someone who had witnessed trauma. This child wasn't confused or seeking attention. He was terrified and telling the truth. "Tyler, where are your parents?" "My dad's working a double shift at the hospital in Memphis. We were taking the Greyhound to visit our grandma in Knoxville. We missed our connection and were waiting for the next bus. That's why we were here. I need to call my dad, but my phone's dead and the people at the counter said I was bothering customers. Reaper handed Tyler his phone. Call your father. Explain what happened and tell him you're with the Steel Brotherhood MC. Tell him we're getting Ethan back, and he should meet us at the highway patrol station in Nashville. Standing, Reaper's mind shifted into tactical mode. The van had perhaps a 4-minute lead, likely traveling at highway speeds, which meant it was already 6 to 8 miles ahead. State troopers would respond, but they were spread thin across hundreds of miles. In trafficking operations, every minute mattered. Victims were moved to secondary locations, transported across state boundaries, absorbed into networks designed to erase identities. Reaper looked at his brothers and saw his own calculation mirrored in their eyes. What they were about to do skirted the edge of vigilantism, was probably illegal in multiple ways, and could result in serious legal consequences. But they also understood that sometimes righteousness and legality weren't aligned, and they'd formed this brotherhood to be men who acted when action was necessary. Mount up, Reaper said quietly. We're pursuing that van. Ghost, the club's voice of reason and a former sheriff's deputy, stepped forward. Reaper, if we mishandle this, if we compromise an investigation, or if this kid is mistaken. He's not mistaken, Reaper interrupted firmly. Look at him, Ghost. That's not confusion. That's a child who witnessed something horrific and is begging for help. We debate procedure while that van puts distance between us, and by the time Highway Patrol mobilizes, those children are gone. He turned to Tyler, who was explaining frantically to his father through tears, struggling to make himself understood. Reaper gently retrieved the phone. Mr. Chun, this is Jack Morrison with the Steel Brotherhood Motorcycle Club. I'm here with your son Tyler. Listen carefully. Tyler just witnessed what appears to be an abduction of his brother. We've contacted Highway Patrol, but we're also pursuing the vehicle while waiting for official response. I need you to trust that we'll protect your son and do everything possible to recover Ethan. Do you understand? The man's voice broke as he pleaded, struggling to speak through his panic. Minutes later, Tyler was secured on Viper's bike, wearing an oversized helmet that nearly swallowed his small head. 6 Harleys thundered to life, and they launched from that rest stop, breaking traffic laws out of absolute necessity. Reaper took lead position, his engine screaming as he pushed past 85, then 95, threading through traffic on I-40 East. Tank maintained contact with Highway Patrol, providing real-time updates. Ghost was running the van's registration through his old law enforcement contacts. They'd been riding perhaps 10 minutes when Tyler's voice crackled through Viper's helmet comm, sharp with recognition. There, that's the van. White one, see it. Reaper spotted it, 4 vehicles ahead in the center lane, maintaining normal highway speed, trying not to attract attention. His phone buzzed with a text from Tank. Plates registered to Shell Corporation. Ghost's contacts say it's connected to suspected trafficking ring. No active warrants. THP units responding, but 25 minutes out. 25 minutes was an eternity. Reaper made his decision and accelerated, the Steel Brotherhood forming up around him in perfect formation. The van driver had just noticed 6 motorcycles closing in, and his reaction would determine whether the children inside survived. What happened in the next 15 minutes would become legendary and change everything for everyone involved. Reaper pulled alongside the van, matching velocity, making direct eye contact with the driver, a nondescript male around 45, the kind of face designed to be forgotten. The man's expression shifted when he registered the motorcycle formation surrounding his vehicle, 6 bikers who weren't yielding, who had effectively trapped him. Tank positioned himself on the passenger side. Ghost dropped back to block any retreat, and Viper maintained center position with Tyler, who was pointing and shouting, though his words were lost in the wind. The driver's face transformed from irritation to calculation to unmistakable panic. That's when Reaper knew with absolute certainty that Tyler had been right. The driver's hand moved toward something, phone, radio, weapon, Reaper couldn't determine. Then the van suddenly swerved hard right, attempting to force Reaper off the road. Reaper's combat training saved him. He braked sharply, dropped back, barely avoiding collision. The van accelerated to 90, and the pursuit intensified. They screamed down I-40 at dangerous speeds, the Steel Brotherhood holding formation, engines roaring. Behind them, sirens finally wailed, Tennessee Highway Patrol, multiple units converging. The driver heard them too, because he made a desperate maneuver, cutting across lanes toward an exit ramp. Reaper followed, the entire formation staying tight. Hitting the exit at 75, the bikes leaning into curves that defied safety standards. They were on a rural two-lane highway now, farmland stretching endlessly. Ahead, the van's brake lights flashed. The driver was stopping, to destroy evidence, to run, to make a stand. The Steel Brotherhood formed a barrier across the road. When the van screeched to a halt 50 yards away, they were already off their bikes, using them as cover, Tank communicating their exact coordinates to dispatch. The van's side door slid open. The driver emerged, hands raised, but his eyes were calculating escape routes. On the ground, Reaper's command voice carried all his Marine Corps authority. Face down, hands behind your head. Now. The man hesitated. Tank took 3 massive strides forward, his sheer physical presence ending any thoughts of resistance. The driver dropped. 4 highway patrol cruisers arrived, officers emerging with weapons drawn. The lead officer, a lieutenant with gray temples and weathered features, assessed the scene with experienced eyes. 6 bikers in defensive positions, a man on the ground radiating guilt, a small boy climbing off a motorcycle screaming his brother's name. Someone opened that van, the lieutenant commanded. Immediately. Tank had bolt cutters from his saddlebag, standard equipment for bikers who sometimes needed to cut chains in emergencies. He severed the cargo area lock and pulled open the doors. What they found made even these hardened men's blood run cold. For children, ages approximately 6 to 13, zip-tied and gagged, sitting on the bare metal floor of a van that had been modified with minimal ventilation, but nothing else for their comfort or safety. And there, huddled in the corner, was a little boy in a red Lightning McQueen shirt, clutching a stuffed green dinosaur, his eyes wide with terror until he saw Tyler. Then recognition and relief flooded his face. The lieutenant was already calling for ambulances, for FBI, for specialized trafficking response units. Officers were reading the driver his rights while securing the scene. Reaper stood watching Tyler embrace his brother, both children sobbing, watching the other 4 children being freed and wrapped in emergency blankets. Something broke open in his chest, grief for losses in his own past, and gratitude that today they prevented those losses for these families. The lieutenant approached Reaper, her expression stern. That was the most reckless, dangerous, technically illegal pursuit I've witnessed in 18 years. Reaper nodded, prepared for arrest. Then her face softened slightly. It was also the bravest intervention I've seen in just as long. These children would have vanished within an hour. Your club just dismantled a trafficking network we've been investigating for 18 months. She extended her hand. Thank you. Reaper shook it, his voice rough. Thank Tyler. He saw the truth and refused to be silenced. Over the following hours, as FBI agents arrived and EMTs evaluated each child, and Tyler's father drove from Memphis, barely able to speak through his tears, the full picture emerged. The driver was part of a network moving victims from Alabama through Tennessee to buyers in Kentucky and Ohio. The children had been taken from various locations over the past 10 days. That evening, Reaper sat with Tyler outside their motel while the boy's father and brother slept inside, exhausted but safe. You did something extraordinary today, Reaper said quietly. You saw wrong and refused to stop until someone listened. Tyler traced patterns on the concrete. Everyone thought I was lying. I know that feeling, Reaper said. But you persisted. That's courage, being terrified and doing what's right anyway. He removed his Steel Brotherhood vest, worn for 15 years, bearing patches from every significant ride and moment that mattered. He held it out to Tyler. This won't fit you now, but keep it. When you're older, if you want to ride with us, you'll have a home. Because today, you embodied everything this club represents. Tyler accepted the vest with reverence. I just wanted my brother back. And because of you, 3 other families got their children back too. One person's courage can change everything. 3 months later, Reaper stood in a Nashville community center, watching Tyler accept a commendation from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. The boy stood tall, telling his story about how nobody believed him until someone finally did. The Steel Brotherhood sat in the back row. 6 men in leather who'd done nothing more than believe an 8-year-old boy and refused to let him down. They didn't seek recognition. They wanted to ride, to serve, to be men who showed up when others needed them. The story became a training case study at the FBI Academy for Civilian Intervention. It became a reminder to dispatchers and rest stop employees and adults everywhere. Listen when children report something wrong, because sometimes they're seeing things adults have learned to ignore. And in the front pocket of Reaper's vest, tucked beside his club patch, is a school photo of a little boy in a red Lightning McQueen shirt, holding a stuffed dinosaur. A reminder that the most important rides aren't always the ones to mountains or memorials, but the ones that start when a child grabs your jacket and says, "They took my brother." And you choose to believe him. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done at that rest stop? Would you have believed Tyler when others dismissed him? Would you have had the courage to pursue that van knowing the risks? Stories like this remind us that everyday heroes are everywhere, and sometimes the only thing standing between tragedy and rescue is one person willing to listen, believe, and act when every second counts.